Further debate?
Thank you, Speaker. It's a real honor to rise to speak to Bill 155, the Agricultural Research Institute of Ontario Amendment Act. And I just want to say that, you don't hear this a lot, maybe in the House, but I just want to compliment the Minister for bringing forward this bill. I know it's something that people in the farm community, people in the food sector, and researchers in particular in the food and farming sector have been asking for modernization of the RO Act. A lot's changed since 1962 when the Institute was founded by the three founding colleges of the University of Guelph, obviously located in my riding, the Ontario Veterinary College, Ontario Agricultural College, and the Macdonald Institute. And while I'm just on those, Speaker, I really quickly just want to say, we're blessed in Ontario to have a university like the University of Guelph. OVC ranks first in Canada, third in North America, and is in the top 10 worldwide for veterinary medicine, and does a fantastic job, and we certainly want to continue working to expand the opportunities at OVC because it's harder to get into veterinary school right now than it is to get into medical school. So we certainly need more spaces in our veterinary college. Also just want to mention that the Ontario Agricultural College ranks in the top 10 worldwide for agriculture and forestry. And then obviously the Macdonald Institute's been doing pioneering work over the years as well. And while I'm talking about the Macdonald Institute, I just want to give a shout out to our former late colleague, Darryl Cramp, whose bill he put forward around food literacy. Please go ahead. Whose bill he put forward around food literacy in our schools is so important and really comes out of the work that the Macdonald Institute has done for years as one of the founding colleges at the University of Guelph. The Act was last updated in the 1990s, so prior to cell phones, prior to the internet, prior to a lot of the innovations that we see in the world today, and the food and farming sector has changed. I mean, when I was a kid, driving a tractor, I could drive the tractor and work on the tractor. Now you kind of drive the tractor with your phone, and I have no idea how you would ever fix the tractor if anything went down with the tractor. Things have changed a lot, and we need to make sure this institute and the 14 research locations that it represents are modernized with that change. And so I think it's a good thing that we do that. I wanted, Speaker, to mention a few things, though, and these are going to be constructive and I hope helpful, constructive criticism, and is taken in that light. If we're going to modernize this act, the Ontario Federation of Agriculture, Mark Russer from the region of Waterloo came and I think gave a fantastic presentation at committee, and I've had a lot of conversations with Mark over the years, and especially recently about the importance of protecting prime farmland in this province, and in particular in Waterloo region, where he's very active right now. But in relation to this bill, he brought up some, and he said this in support of the bill. So I'm going to be very clear. OFA called for modernization. The government has delivered on modernization. But there are some things that I think are important to put into the record. So one is that farmers have a direct involvement in the Institute, especially as it modernizes, and that their voice, as the scope of the Institute expands and the number of food value chain stakeholders becomes more prominent in the role that the Institute plays, that farmers still have a direct role in the direction of research and the participation in research. The second is, if the research mandate of the Institute is going to expand, which I think is a good thing, to make sure the Institute has the financial resources to be able to deliver on the mandate of that expanded mandate. That the oversight of facilities improve. There were examples, not actually brought by OFA, but by other farmers, particularly a berry farmer, who talked about the fact that some of the research that they were doing, because of inadequate maintenance of facilities, led to their berries molding, and the research was lost. And so just talked about the importance of making sure we maintain the facilities in a way that when the farmers in particular are doing research at these locations, these 14 locations around the province, that their research isn't damaged in any way due to the inadequacies of the facilities themselves, because you can imagine the time, money, aggravation lost in doing that. Concerns around making sure that industry representatives, particularly farmers, but also throughout the entire value chain, serve on the board of the Institute moving forward. That's not clear in the legislation. I'm assuming the minister is going to ensure that, but I think it's important to have it on the record and important to let folks know that farmers express that. And then the final point I want to make is funding for our colleges and universities. At the same time this bill was in front of committee, the head of the faculty association at the University of Guelph came and talked about how in her department they're going to lose 2 of the 3 plant scientists. And they don't have the financial resources to replace those plant scientists, and that's going to hurt the ability to do this kind of research in the province of Ontario, and that's why we need to adequately fund our post-secondary universities.
Questions? I recognize the member from Newmarket Aurora.
Thank you, Speaker, and I like to thank the member from Guelph for his remarks today. And as I was listening, I took note of your comment regarding veterinary capacity. And as part of this act, proposed act, if passed, we would be investing $14.7 million to establish a new collaborative doctor of veterinary medicine to enroll up to 20 more veterinary students per year, as well as the veterinary incentive program, which will be $50,000 over 5 years for veterinarians to go to underserved communities. Perhaps a member can speak to how that investment in those programs will help this capacity.
Question? Response, the member from Guelph.
So I appreciate the member's question. Thank you very much for it. I do want to be clear, and this is in all respect, that doesn't deal with this particular bill, but your question is very important. And so I want to say to the Minister of Agriculture, and the work that we did advocating for an expansion of the vet program is really important. When I was asked in last year's budget, what was the one thing I really liked about the budget? It was funding for this exact program that you're asking me about. The partnership between the University of Guelph and Lakehead University and the expansion of veterinary spaces, particularly targeting northern communities, is a step in the right direction. We know that there's a shortage of veterinarians across the province, but there's especially an acute shortage of veterinarians, especially large animal veterinarians in Northern Ontario. And this particular funding and the expansion of this program, the partnership between Lakehead and the University of Guelph is going to make a real difference.
Question, the member from Waterloo.
Guelph. For coming to Wilmot Township actually last week. We met with farmers who are being expropriated from their prime agricultural land, 770 acres. Developers have already gone to this land back in January and offered $58,000 an acre based on rumors that it would be rezoned for industrial land. We can't study soil and the farming sector if the farmers aren't there. And so I asked the member, what do you make of the fact that regional politicians have signed NDAs? It's silence on our democracy. This land is clearly being set for a large industrial project. And we have before us a piece of legislation which claims that we should be studying and thriving in the farming sector, and yet get it done. Schedule 1 fast tracks expropriation and makes it more difficult for farmers to exist in Ontario.
Response, the member from Guelph.
Yeah, I thank the member for the question, and also just do a little cross-partisan collaboration. Thank the member for also attending the event in Wilmot organized by farmers to protect prime farmland in the province. And Mark Reeser, when he came to committee, made it very clear that the OFA supports this bill. I'll be voting in favor of this bill. But in his testimony and in his broader public comments has indicated that, if we don't have farmland, if we continue to lose farmland at the rate of 319 acres every day in this province, we're not going to have a food and farming sector to actually do research on. And so we have to build homes
Response?
within existing urban areas. We have to look at doing industrial applications on land that's not prime farmland, because it's so critical to our economy and our ability to feed ourselves.